I never imagined that a simple classroom dare could spiral into the kind of situation I now found myself trapped in. My name is Jason, a 19-year-old college sophomore trying to balance studies, work, and a complicated love life. On the surface, I appeared like any other student, average build, slightly introverted, mostly blending into the background. But beneath that facade, I harbored a secret passion, a fascination with feminine clothing, delicate fabrics, and the subtle, intoxicating thrill of crossdressing. It wasn't something I shared with anyone, not my friends, not my family, and certainly not Emma, my girlfriend of 2 years. She knew I enjoyed fashion in a general sense, but she had no idea about my weekend rituals of trying on skirts, blouses, and makeup in the privacy of my small apartment. To me, this hobby was private, a personal escape from the pressures of my daily life. The story begins in the classroom of Professor Claire Manning, my literature teacher, an elegant, imposing woman in her mid-30s with a reputation for high expectations and exacting standards. Claire had a curious streak, and while she seemed strict, there was a playful edge to her demeanor that often unsettled students like me. That edge would prove far more consequential than I could have anticipated. It all started after class one afternoon. I had stayed behind to ask a question about the essay assignment, trying not to draw attention to my nervous stammering. Claire smiled at me in a way that made my stomach twist. "Jason, you have an interesting sense of presentation," she said, her eyes flicking briefly toward my jeans and hoodie. I felt a flush creep up my neck. Was she just joking, or had she seen through me somehow? Thank you, Professor," I muttered, fumbling with my notebook. Claire's gaze sharpened, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "I have a proposition for you," she said, leaning casually against the desk. "I bet you wouldn't look convincing in something a little more feminine. A blouse, a skirt. Elegant. Care to take a challenge?" My pulse quickened. Part of me was mortified. How could I admit my secret to my teacher? But another part, the secret part that loved the thrill of trying on skirts and soft fabrics, surged with excitement. I opened my mouth, ready to decline, when Claire tilted her head and added, "I'd be willing to make it interesting. If you take the bet and succeed, I'll consider your essay extra credit. If you fail," her smile was sharp, almost predatory, "well, let's just say you'll have to play along." I hesitated, my mind spinning. The bet was ridiculous, potentially humiliating, but it also whispered to a part of me I had never shared. And somehow, against my better judgment, I nodded. "Oh, okay, I'll do it." Claire's smile widened, triumphant. "Excellent. You'll start tomorrow. Bring your courage, and leave the rest to me." The next day, I arrived at Claire's office, a mix of fear and anticipation twisting my stomach into knots. She had prepared a small collection of clothing, a silky skirt, a fitted blouse, knee-high socks, and delicate ballet flats. "Everything fits you," she said, observing me critically. "And don't worry, I'll guide you." The moment I slipped into the outfit, the transformation was immediate and disorienting. The skirt swished around my thighs, the blouse clung in a way that accentuated shapes I wasn't used to seeing in myself, and the socks and flats made my movements feel uncomfortably delicate. My reflection in the office mirror startled me. This was Jason, yes, but Jason transformed. Vulnerable, exposed, and unrecognizably feminine. Claire watched me with an intensity that made my skin prickle.
"Good," she said.
"Now walk, sit, and behave as I instruct. Today, you're not just a student. You're my pet for the challenge. You'll learn quickly that elegance requires obedience." My heart pounded as I followed her directions, feeling the unfamiliarity of my body, the softness of the fabric against my skin, and the unnatural sway of the skirt. Each movement was a lesson in poise and submission, and though I felt embarrassment, I also felt a strange thrill, a stirring sense of identity I hadn't allowed myself to explore openly. Afterward, Claire handed me a small notebook, a set of instructions, and a schedule.
"You will practice at home," she said.
I expect perfection. And remember, Jason, once the bet begins, there's no backing out. You belong to the skirt until I say otherwise. Walking home, I tried to process what had just happened. The skirt in my backpack felt heavier than it should, a symbol of both freedom and imprisonment. I was terrified, yes, but also undeniably drawn to the idea of continuing. My secret life of crossdressing had been thrust into the hands of someone else, and the combination of fear, excitement, and anticipation left me buzzing. That evening, I texted Emma cautiously. "Hey, just had a weird fashion project assigned by Claire." I omitted the truth, of course, knowing she wouldn't understand. Or would she? Emma replied with a curious emoji and a vague, "That sounds fun, I guess." I felt a twinge of relief, but also knew that the web of secrecy was only beginning. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I felt the tension of the bet wrap around me like the skirt itself. Claire had not only taken control of my challenge, but had also insinuated herself into my personal identity, blurring the line between Jason and the feminine persona I had long kept hidden. Little did I know this was only the beginning. The bet would escalate, the challenges would intensify, and I would find myself more deeply entwined in Claire's game than I could ever imagine. Each lesson, each command, each step in the skirted persona would test my resolve, my fear, and my thrill-seeking side, and it would all culminate in a struggle between secrecy, desire, and obedience that I wasn't sure I could survive unscathed. The room felt smaller, the weight of the skirt heavier, and the reflection in the mirror more seductive and terrifying than ever. My journey as Claire's skirted pet had begun, and there was no turning back. The first days after Claire's bet were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I found myself nervously pacing my small apartment, skirt folded neatly on the chair, shoes polished, and socks ready. The more I thought about it, the more my heart raced, not with excitement alone, but with a constant mix of anxiety, shame, and the thrill of doing something forbidden. Claire had sent a detailed schedule for me to follow. Each day included specific instructions, posture exercises, walking and sitting techniques, gestures that emphasize grace, and the careful application of makeup she expected me to master. It wasn't just about wearing the clothes, it was about embodying a persona that I had never dared explore openly. That first night, I slipped into the skirt and blouse, feeling my cheeks burn as I adjusted the waistband and smoothed the fabric over my legs. The mirror reflected a version of me I barely recognized, small, delicate, hesitant, yet strangely compelling. I moved cautiously, practicing each step as Claire had instructed, the ballet flats forcing my feet into unfamiliar positions. Each sway of my hips felt exaggerated, awkward, but necessary. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and yet alive in a way I hadn't experienced before. By the third day, I started to notice subtle changes in myself. My body began to respond to the movements differently, my posture became more rigid yet fluid, and my gait softened into the rhythm Claire had demanded. At first, I felt shame, imagining anyone, especially Emma, seeing me like this. But over time, a new part of me emerged, a persona that was obedient, graceful, and eager to please. The internal conflict gnawed at me constantly. Part of me loved the thrill, the sensuality of skirts brushing my thighs, the nervous excitement of maintaining Claire's standards. But another part feared discovery. I imagined Emma opening the door, friends walking in unexpectedly, or even classmates noticing subtle differences in my behavior. Every sound outside my apartment made my pulse spike. Claire's instructions weren't just about appearance, they were psychological. She emphasized mindset, obedience, and attention to detail. A pet must listen, respond, and adapt, she reminded me during our lessons. Clothes are just the beginning. Your behavior, your reactions, your voice, they all matter. I felt both intimidated and aroused by the idea, trapped in a role I had never consented to fully, yet couldn't resist exploring. Homework assignments became rituals. I practiced makeup meticulously. Soft foundation, blush to accentuate my cheekbones, mascara, and eyeliner to make my eyes appear wider. I experimented with lip colors, learning which shades made my lips look full and natural. Every night, I transformed in front of the mirror, rehearsing Claire's instructions. Each reflection reminded me how far I had crossed into this dual identity. Jason was still there, but Alex, the skirted, obedient persona, was asserting herself more each day. Claire also introduced tasks outside the apartment. Walk to the corner store, she instructed, in full attire. Observe yourself, control your demeanor, and do not falter. My heart thundered at the thought. Would anyone notice? Would I be humiliated? But as I followed her guidance, the sensation of moving publicly in skirts, socks, and delicate shoes became a mix of fear and exhilaration. Eyes that might glance at me, whether they noticed or not, added to the intoxicating tension. Then came the first verbal corrections from Claire. During one practice, she noticed my hands trembling as I adjusted the skirt. Too stiff, she said sharply. Relax. You must glide, not stumble. A pet obeys, learns, and adapts without hesitation. Her words pierced me, a combination of chastisement and encouragement. I felt both chastised and oddly proud, eager to prove I could meet her exacting expectations. Emma's presence, or rather her absence, haunted me constantly. I had to ensure she never saw me in this state. Each moment of crossdressing, each practice session, became a careful dance of secrecy. My texts to her were vague. My excuses for being late or distracted were carefully crafted. I feared judgment, rejection, or worse, disappointment. Yet, the secrecy added a delicious thrill. I was living a dual life, balancing the familiar world of Jason with the forbidden persona of Alex. Claire escalated the challenge gradually. She introduced accessories, delicate bracelets, a small locket, and eventually, a wig to cover my short hair. I practiced wearing it carefully, adjusting the curls and securing it with pins. Each time I looked in the mirror, the transformation deepened, and with it, my emotional surrender. Alex was becoming real, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to resist. Social situations became the true test. One evening, Claire arranged for me to attend a small gathering of her friends under the guise of helping with the party. The dress, the heels, the subtle makeup, they all screamed vulnerability. My hands shook as I greeted people, voices soft, posture perfect. The thrill of performing, coupled with the terror of being discovered, sent shivers down my spine. I realized that every encounter, no matter how brief, carried the potential for exposure. Internal struggles reached a peak when I caught myself imagining Emma discovering the secret. Would she laugh, cry, or be angry? Would she leave me? The thought was terrifying, yet it highlighted the depth of my emotional entanglement with Alex. I was no longer simply Jason practicing a secret hobby. I had begun to merge emotionally with the persona Claire had meticulously cultivated. Claire's guidance became more intimate. Obedience is beauty, she said during one session, guiding my hands to adjust the skirt and smooth the blouse. Confidence comes from submission. Your body, your mind, they must obey to express elegance. I trembled under her direction, part shame, part exhilaration. Every gesture, every movement, every obedient response reinforced the dual life I was cultivating, and yet the stakes felt unbearably high. Even mundane tasks became exercises in control and performance. Walking down the hallway, adjusting my skirt discreetly, applying subtle blush, and ensuring my posture was flawless. All of it became a carefully orchestrated routine. Every sound outside my apartment, every unexpected visitor, and every glance from a neighbor heightened my anxiety. By the end of the first 2 weeks, Alex had taken root. Jason still existed, but the skirted, obedient persona was asserting dominance in my private world. Each time I looked in the mirror, I saw a reflection that demanded attention and discipline. The thrill of secrecy, the tension of obedience, and the allure of transformation had intertwined, creating a suspenseful, emotionally charged reality that I couldn't escape. Claire's messages became constant reminders. Practice tonight. Perfect the posture. Remember, your pet identity is only as strong as your obedience. Do not falter. I felt both trapped and liberated, walking a razor's edge between fear and desire. And just when I thought I had settled into the routine, Claire added a new instruction. Tomorrow, you'll wear the outfit to class. Publicly. No excuses. Remember, Jason, every eye on you is a test. Fail, and consequences follow. My heart raced at the thought. Exposure, judgment, humiliation, desire, all mingled together. A storm I wasn't sure I could withstand. The build-up to the public challenge loomed large, and I knew that my dual identity, my submission to Claire, and my secret obsession were about to collide in a way I had never experienced before. I stared at the skirt in my hands, the heels on the floor, and the wig resting on the chair. Each item felt heavier than before, a symbol of both transformation and entrapment. Tomorrow, the stakes would rise. And I had no choice but to obey, perform, and survive as Claire's skirted pet, or risk losing everything I had tried so desperately to maintain. The morning of the public test arrived, and with it, a storm of nerves that tightened my chest like a vice. I stared at the outfit Claire had selected for me, a fitted plaid skirt that grazed mid-thigh, a crisp white blouse, knee-high socks, and polished ballet flats. The wig, soft curls cascading around my shoulders, completed the transformation. My reflection in the mirror was almost unrecognizable. Alex stared back at me, wide-eyed and trembling, yet poised. Claire's last message had been blunt. No excuses. Today, every movement, every glance, every step is a test. You must perform as my skirted pet, Jason. Fail, and consequences follow. The words repeated in my mind as I adjusted the skirt, tugging it to sit perfectly on my hips, and smoothed the blouse down my torso. My hands shook slightly as I slipped on the wig, the unfamiliar weight making me acutely aware of every movement. The walk to class felt like traversing a minefield. Each step on the cracked sidewalk, each slight rustle of fabric, made my heart hammer in my chest. I imagined every passerby noticing me, every glance judging the delicate skirt and soft shoes. The world felt exaggerated, eyes sharper, sounds louder, and every shadow a potential threat. I was utterly exposed, yet strangely exhilarated. Inside the classroom, the tension reached its peak. Claire had arranged it so that several of our peers were already seated, some whispering, some glancing curiously. I entered quietly, head held high, trying to glide as I had practiced countless times. The skirt swayed perfectly with each step, the socks hugging my calves, the blouse crisp and neat. My heart raced with every footfall. Then came the first challenge, the seating arrangement. The desk at the front was assigned to me, a position that made me visible to everyone. As I approached, I felt the fabric cling uncomfortably, my nerves making my movements stiffer than usual. A whisper floated from behind. "Is that Jason?" The voice was low, yet every syllable felt like a spotlight on me. My cheeks burned. I faltered slightly, but recalled Claire's instructions: head high, shoulders back, movements controlled. Claire appeared at the doorway, a subtle smirk playing across her lips. She didn't intervene, letting me navigate the classroom under the scrutiny of everyone present. Every glance, every suppressed giggle, every passing remark heightened my anxiety. I realized that the true test wasn't the outfit. It was the act of maintaining composure, obedience, and elegance under observation. The first obstacle came in the form of an unexpected visitor. Mr. Harris, the department head, walked in, catching sight of me immediately. "Jason or Alex?" he quipped lightly, eyebrows raised. A ripple of laughter passed through the room. My hands trembled, the knees weakened. I forced myself to glide to the desk, sitting carefully, knees together, hands folded in my lap. Every muscle in my body screamed tension, yet I kept my composure, my face a mask of obedience. Claire's whispers in my ear from the side of the room guided me through the ordeal. "Relax your shoulders. Chin up. Smile subtly. Obey, respond, perform." Her guidance steadied me, grounding me even as my anxiety skyrocketed. The act of dual identity, the obedient, skirted Alex versus the internally panicked Jason, became a balancing act more intense than any challenge I had faced. Then came the first real test of emotion. A classmate, Jenna, leaned forward, a teasing glint in her eye. "I never thought Jason could pull this off," she said softly, enough for me to hear. My heart skipped, a cocktail of shame and unexpected pride coursing through me. I realized that part of me craved the validation, craved recognition for the persona I had painstakingly cultivated. Each compliment, each glance, each challenge reinforced the dual life I had committed to. But suspense escalated when a phone buzzed unexpectedly on a nearby desk. The sound was loud in the tense silence. I froze, fearing someone would discover my secret identity. Claire's eyes met mine across the room, a subtle nod reminding me to stay calm, maintain composure, and continue performing. I took a deep breath, letting my practiced movements guide me, adjusting my skirt discreetly, fingers trembling slightly. The moment passed, yet the anxiety lingered like a shadow over every subsequent interaction. Physical tension built, as well. Wearing heels for a prolonged period, walking in a confined space, keeping perfect posture, all while maintaining the skirted persona, was exhausting. My feet ached, back stiffened, and muscles tightened, yet every ache reminded me of the commitment I had made. Each step, each adjustment, each careful tilt of my head reinforced the dual identity Claire had engineered. The emotional climax came unexpectedly when Emma herself appeared outside the classroom, a brief visit she had planned to check on my schedule. My stomach dropped. Would she notice? Recognize the transformation? My heart thundered, a rapid drumbeat echoing through my chest. I glanced toward Claire, who subtly raised an eyebrow, a signal of both challenge and encouragement. Emma's presence added a layer of panic I hadn't anticipated. I moved instinctively, crossing legs delicately, adjusting the skirt without drawing attention, lowering my voice, and softening my gestures. Every second felt like an eternity, each movement a potential exposure. My dual identity wavered under pressure, Jason desperate to retreat, Alex striving to perform flawlessly. The symbolic moment arrived when I caught sight of myself in the classroom mirror, reflected in the glass pane separating the corridor from the room. Alex stared back, poised, obedient, skirt perfectly in place, hands delicate and controlled. Yet beneath the surface, Jason's panic simmered. The mirror reflected the tension between identity and performance, desire and fear, exposure and obedience. I realized that the persona Claire had cultivated was no longer optional. It had intertwined with my psyche, a permanent challenge I had to navigate carefully. The climax reached its peak during a short presentation I was called to deliver. My voice, soft yet deliberate, carried through the room. I felt every eye upon me, every whisper, every suppressed smirk. The skirt, the blouse, the wig, the heels, all elements of transformation, heightened my vulnerability. Yet, as I spoke, I noticed a strange exhilaration, a confidence born from surviving scrutiny, from embracing the persona fully, from balancing fear and desire. Suddenly, a loud knock at the classroom door jolted me. A substitute teacher had arrived unexpectedly. Gasps echoed around me. My knees wobbled. The skirt brushed sharply against my thighs, heels unsteady. I felt the fragile balance of Alex and Jason teeter dangerously. Claire's whispered instructions in my ear steadied me momentarily, reminding me to glide, to adjust, to perform. Every muscle tensed as I navigated the intrusion, the dual identities straining against each other. By the time class ended, my body ached from prolonged tension, my mind exhausted from sustained vigilance, yet I had survived. I slumped slightly in the empty classroom, relief washing over me in waves, tempered by the lingering fear of discovery and the knowledge that this was only the beginning. The public test had pushed me to the limits, revealing the depth of my transformation, the intensity of my obedience, and the precariousness of my dual life. As I gathered my belongings, I caught Claire's approving glance. She didn't speak, yet the smirk on her face said it all. The challenge was met, but the stakes would rise further. The thrill, the fear, the submission, it was far from over. I walked out, skirt swaying, wig perfectly in place, but my heart still raced. Every step was a reminder that the dual identity, the obedience, and the suspense were now inseparable parts of my life. The final bell rang, but the tension in my chest refused to dissipate. My legs ached from the heels, my back stiff from holding perfect posture all morning, and my heart still thudded as though it hadn't yet processed the ordeal. I gathered my bag, careful not to disturb the skirt, and tried to take a deep breath, but it caught in my throat when I saw Claire leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, that knowing smirk curling her lips. "You did well today," she said softly, almost too softly, her gaze lingering on me in a way that made my pulse spike. "But this is just the beginning. You're mine, Jason, or should I say Alex?" I froze. The name, the possessive tone, made every nerve in my body tense. I wanted to respond, to protest, but my lips felt glued shut. My dual identity wavered again, Jason desperate to escape, Alex compelled to obey. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and froze. A message from Emma. "Can we talk? I'm at the school, near your classroom." Panic surged. My stomach churned. Did she see me today? Did anyone mention my transformation? The classroom was supposed to be empty now, or was it? I glanced at Claire, whose expression remained unreadable, a sly gleam in her eyes suggesting she might already know. I stuffed the phone back in my pocket and tried to move, to leave, but my body betrayed me. My heels clicked sharply on the floor, each step loud in the sudden quiet. The skirt swayed, the wig shifted slightly, and for a split second I imagined Emma walking in, seeing me like this, Alex fully exposed, and everything unraveling. Claire tilted her head, watching me closely. "Careful," she murmured. "You never know who's watching or who's coming next." Her words sent shivers down my spine. I realized then that the control she held over me wasn't just about clothing, makeup, or posture. It was about fear, anticipation, and the knowledge that my secret life could explode at any moment. I reached the door and paused, my hand on the handle, breathing shallow. Outside, the hallway stretched empty, or so it seemed. Shadows shifted near the lockers, and a whisper of movement made my heart skip again. Had Emma followed me here? Had someone else noticed? The uncertainty gnawed at me. Claire's smirk widened. "Don't think this is over, Alex. Today was a test. Tomorrow will be something far more challenging." Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed closer.
Faster.
Louder. My instinct screamed, and I turned slowly, just in time to see a familiar silhouette at the end of the hall. My eyes widened, and then the door opened behind me. I spun around, trapped between two possibilities. One was someone I trusted, the other, I couldn't even imagine. My breath caught, the skirt tight against my thighs, the wig slightly askew, my entire persona on the brink of exposure. The hallway fell silent for a heartbeat, the world holding its breath with me. And then, a voice, low and unmistakable, whispered my name. "Alex." I froze. Every muscle in my body tensed. My mind raced.
Who had seen me?
What would happen next? My secret, my identity, my dual life, everything hung by a thread. Claire's laughter echoed softly from the doorway, almost triumphant. "Let's see how long you can keep up the act," she murmured. And just like that, the story ended, not with resolution, but with suspense. Would Emma discover me? Would my dual life be exposed to the school? How far would Claire push me next?